allow you that opportunity to review content if you've missed anything, and go back and just and have access to the webinar. So this is Loretta there on the screen, and she's our moderator, as I said. So over to you for this one, Loretta.
Thank you. So I'll be here in the background assisting if anyone has any issues. I guess, first thing I always say, log out, log back in, see if that works. But if you can't make a session, any other tech issues, admin type of questions, please email myself or the team at training@safesystemsolutions.com.au. As I mentioned earlier, this is a webinar, so if you wanted to use the chat function, please do so. There's also the Q&A as well, so you should have sort of a section on the bottom, depends how your screen's set up, but under the More tab, you can use the chat and the questions and answers there. If you really wanted to talk to us, that's fine too. You can simply raise your hand. So there is a, where your name is in the list, you'll be able to raise your hand if you wanted to chat with us as well. In the LMS, the Learning Management System, we do have the presentation slides there as a PDF. So you can actually, bring that up on your screen if you wanted to follow on that as well, but you've also got it there for later as well. I'll run through the learning management system a little bit later, but if you haven't received your email for your login details, check your spam or your junk folders, because sometimes it does go in there. But otherwise, you can email me, let me know, or send me a chat, and we'll get you set up, because it is definitely important, because you will need to use the LMS to complete the course. Thanks, Paul.
Wonderful. Thanks, Loretta. Okay, I think we'll just go through a couple more things before we start. So, and this is me. So I'm a principal engineer with Safe System Solutions, and I'll be the presenter of this webinar and the one we've got tomorrow. I've worked in the transport infrastructure space for over 20 years now. As I said, when we started, I got a few skeletons in the closet. I did work for Pine Ridge Shire Council before the amalgamation occurred, and I have been in road safety, risk management, transport planning, and road design throughout that 20 years. So enough about me. There's an opportunity to win some prizes today, and that's why we've got Marissa sitting in the prize pit where she is. So she's got
Loretta,
access.
not Marissa.
I get it all the time. Everyone always calls me Marissa.
Thank you, Marco.
But that's okay. I'll take anything. No worries. But yeah, I'll be in the background tracking who gets a prize. And then once, if you do win a prize, we will send them to Marco, and he'll distribute those out to the winners. But we've got lots of toys to send out to you. That's what I've got behind me. So I'll just grab a Superman and fling it over Marco's way. No, just kidding. There will be some good prizes. So ensure you get involved. We ask that you contribute, when Paul asks questions. Anything that's sort of done during the webinar is not marked on, but you can win prizes. So yeah, hey, why not? Give it a go, answer questions, and have some fun along the way. Thanks, Paul.
Wonderful, and sorry about that. Marissa was our wonderful moderator for the first two groups. So, and then we've got Loretta with us now. So I haven't made that mistake yet till right now. We've got some competency requirements for the course, just so you can demonstrate that you understand the concepts and can apply the safety and design process for council. So there's a set quiz at the end of each of the modules. There's 10 questions in those quizzes, and you've got 3 attempts to pass the quiz. You need 80% to pass. So that's one of the requirements. We also need you to obviously to attend this webinar and the one tomorrow as well. If you can't make it, then that recording is available. If you have any issues in getting through the quiz, we're happy to provide some one-on-one coaching just to go through any concepts that you may need a bit of help on. So I think that is all the administration stuff we'll go through now. So we've broken the training up into 2 modules. The first module covers some really key concepts around safety and design. We'll define some important terms that'll help you really grasp what safety and design is. The second module is a little more practical, and we'll be able to undertake a safety and design exercise using design projects that council has completed, and we'll do that in small groups, and we'll be able to share, I guess, the work that you do in small groups to the wider group as well. So why here? Why is work health and safety important? Well, it's important because when we go to work, we all want to return home in the same condition and health as when we left for work. So design has an important role to play to eliminate and minimise the risk of death and serious injury in the workplace. You can see those statistics there from 2021 on your screen, 43 work-related injury fatalities. That's almost 1 a week, which is a lot, and over 32,000 serious claims for compensation, all in just 1 year. By the end of today's session, you'll have an understanding of Council's Safety and Design Manual. And the training is aimed, I guess, to help you meet those obligations that Council has under the Work Health and Safety Act. I know many, if not all of you in the session, will have some or perhaps even a lot of experience in safety and design, and it is possible that what you see will be familiar to you. As I said, we're running 4 sessions, and this is the last one, last group. So you're lucky last, and we've had a chance to iron out some of the little bugs that we had. So hopefully it's a really smooth and informative and interactive session that we have today. But at the conclusion of module 2, we'll gather all the feedback that we've received along the way around the process or the manual, and then it's currently in draft format. After this module is completed, then we'll relook at the manual and finalise that and make it available for everyone to use. So by the end of this module, you'll be able to understand the concept of safety and design, have a good understanding of those really important key terms, which I'm just about to get into, and understand some other important considerations when it comes to safety and design. So let's go. So safety and design, this is a straight up definition of safety and design. So it requires a designer to ensure that as far as reasonably practicable, that a structure is designed to be without risks to the health and safety of persons who, there's 4 steps here. So at a workplace, use the structure for the purpose for which it was designed, construct the structure at a workplace, and carry out any reasonably foreseeable activity at a workplace. And that could be manufacturing, assembly, maintenance is a very common activity, or demolition or disposal at the end of the life of a structure. But safety and design also relates to considering those who are in the vicinity of a workplace and are exposed to the structure, any of those above activities. So, and you'll notice that some of those terms there are in bold, and it's really going to be important to have a strong understanding of those terms. So that's designer, reasonably practical, structure, and workplace. So we're going to delve into what each of those terms mean. I'm going to do that through some interactive elements. So give everyone a chance to be involved. We're going to run a series of polls initially, and there'll be other questions where you'll be asked to contribute some answers in the chat. So if you haven't found that chat window, have a look for it now. I can see that Tony's found it. He said good day. So make sure you can have access to the chat, and there'll also be those polls that I mentioned. So the first question is, what is a workplace? It's one of those key terms. So is it just an office space like the one in the picture? Is it just your depot? where workers meet at the start of a day or at the end of a day. Is it a construction site? Well, can be all those places, or it is all those places, but it's any place where work is carried out for a business or undertaking, and includes any place where a worker goes or is likely to be while at work. So that under the Work Health and Safety Act, a workplace covers many of the places beyond what a traditional view of a workplace could be. So our first activity, and this is a bit of a warm up here, is I'll show you some photos, and I want you to imagine those ways that the images or the place in the photo could become a workplace. So for example, in this case, I've got a photo of a traffic signal controller box. So you could finish this sentence that this is a workplace when, you can finish it in a number of ways, but I've got here, this is a workplace when a worker installs a new personality chip to the traffic signal controller for a new phase sequence at the traffic lights. Or it could be, this is a workplace when workers replace the traffic signal cabinet with a new one. So I'll give you a couple of, there'll be a few examples and we'll run some polls. So have a look at this photo. So this is a photo of a sports field, a light tower, bit of a car park footpath. So I'll get Marissa to launch the first poll. So hopefully you can all see it when it
I'll
pops
launch
up.
it. Loretta will launch that now.
Did I do it again? Did I?
You do, that's okay.
Oh, no. Okay.
Saving the best till last, Paul.
Give me a virtual slap across the head or something. Can you, oh, there's the poll down there. Sorry, it's just going to move around on my screen. So have a look at that that photo there, and there's a few options in the poll that Loretta has just launched around how we can complete this sentence. So this is a workplace when the first option is a lighting contract that's engaged by the football club replaces a light fixture on the light tower, perhaps. Second option is when a team decides to have a training run on a long weekend. The third option is a pipe that is part of an irrigation system burst and needs emergency repairs by a plumber. And the fourth one is, this is a workplace when a learner driver under the supervision of a family member practices in the car park. So you can pick more than one answer if you think there's more than one correct answer, and a bit of a hint that there is. And select those ones that you believe are correct as far as the definition of a workplace is. So I think everyone's got the hang of it. Wonderful. I can see those responses coming in. I think we're almost there. Maybe a couple more. We'll give it a second or two longer since this is the first poll we're running. Okay, I think we'll end it there. Let's end the poll and share the results. And I don't think this has happened with any of the other groups, Marco.
No,
but
I was going to say exactly the same. This is the first time.
Yeah. So yeah, the two responses there, where we've got the first one where everyone selected it, and most have selected the third response, and those are the two instances when in the photo that could become a workplace. So the other ones which no one has selected correctly is that a team decides to have a training run on a weekend. That's not a workplace. Or a learner driver under the supervision of a family member practices in a car park is also not a workplace because no one's been engaged to undertake work. Wonderful. All right, we've got some pretty good operators here in this group. So let's get to the next example. So let's complete this sentence now, Loretta. We'll launch the next poll. So let's complete this sentence. So this is a workplace when, and the option contractor engaged by council slashes grass on the embankment. A path is used by a cyclist riding to the shops. A truck delivering building materials to a nearby site uses the road. Pothole in the road carriageway is repaired by a council maintenance crew. So responses coming in, good to see. All right. Give it a couple more seconds. Okay, Loretta, let's share those results. There we go. So everyone's picked the top one. Yep, correctly. A mowing contractor engaged by council slashes grass on the embankment. Hopefully, yeah, that photo there's not a great example of safety in design there. It's not in Moreton Bay, so no one needs to be concerned. But you can see the guy with the whippersnipper with slasher is sort of on the top of an embankment. There's a bit of a level difference there between the embankment and the road, so it's not a great example of safety at a workplace. The second option there, a path is used by a cyclist riding to the shops, so no one's carrying out work there. Someone just using the path for its intended purpose. The next one, a truck delivering building materials to a nearby site uses the road. Now, this is a bit of an interesting one. So it's not considered that it is a workplace or the road is a workplace in that instance. When we've got occupations that particularly drivers that may drive a truck or a bus or anything like that, for example. So that the road is not their workplace. What's considered their workplace is their vehicle. It might also be their depot if their vehicle is sort of stored there at overnight, then that's their workplace. But any part of their vehicle, but not the roadway, not the road carriageway. And certainly, if that was the case, there would be certainly, I think, a different focus on how we approach road design. So that's quite a separate discussion. So, and the last one there, a pothole in the road carriageway is repaired by a council maintenance crew. Certainly, there's work being undertaken for council, and that would be a workplace. So, well done, everyone. Let's go on to the next one. So here we got a park. We'll launch that next poll, Loretta. And these are the options. So I've got park, kids using the play equipment as it's intended, some trees and a bit of a surrounding park area around the play equipment. So the options here, so this is a workplace when children play on the equipment. So the equipment's being used as intended. A tree next to the park is trimmed by a qualified arborist. Additional play equipment is installed in accordance with the park master plan. The last one, a children's party is held in the park when food is ordered from a delivery service.
I noticed this one does say single choice again, Paul.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
I'll have to fix that up. Sorry, I just noticed that as well. So it is select all that apply.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you want to, there's a couple of, I say, correct answers there. So if you select one of those, then that'll be great. So not sure why that reverted from multi-choice to single choice.
yeah, Shannon's just advised that you can only choose one. So
yep. Yeah, okie doke. All right, well, we'll wrap that one up there. I think we've almost got all the responses. So noting that, yeah, you can only select one, and the one that most people select is certainly correct. Additional play equipment is installed in accordance with the park master plan. So the other one that was also correct is the tree next to the park was trimmed by a qualified arborist, and the assumption there is I didn't state it, but someone trimming a tree in a park is usually engaged by council to do that, or employed by council to do that. So that is also an example of a workplace. When children play on the equipment, it's not an example of a workplace. No one's been is undertaking work in that situation. And similarly, when a children's party is held in the park, and even if food is ordered from a delivery service, it's sort of the same principle as I mentioned with the driver. So whilst they're making a delivery, their workplace is considered their vehicle. So in that case, it wouldn't be a situation where the park is a workplace. Apologies for that poll. So we'll move on now and talk about what a structure is. So I'm going to talk about and what we think of as when we think of structures. Is it buildings? Is it maybe there's tall buildings, bridges maybe? Because they're sort of the words that, you know, the sort of the structures we think about when we hear the word structure. Well, yes, that they are structures, but under the Work Health and Safety Act, a structure means anything that is constructed, and that could be fixed, movable, temporary or permanent. Includes these things. So buildings, yes, masts, towers, pipelines, transport infrastructure. So that could be bridges, that could be roads, underground works, shafts and tunnels. Includes any component of a structure or any part of a structure. In the early days, when this form of work health and safety legislation was released, the term structure threw a lot of people off, particularly those in the road transport space, because we didn't typically refer to roads as structures. Most people thought of structures as buildings or bridges, perhaps. So when that legislation came out, there was a conception in industry for at least the initial time that, or maybe because it's referring to structures and we're doing a road, we don't really need to undertake a safety and design assessment. So that's been, I guess, ironed out many years ago, but just to flag that that's the definition of a structure is quite broad. So it's important that we keep that in mind. So let's run with some more polls. So this time I'm going to show you an image, and the poll will give you some options, and I'd like you to select all that apply. So what in the structure, what is a structure in this photo that you can see? It's the Bribie Island Bridge, and you've got some options. Is it the water under the bridge itself, the dumped rock you can see in the foreground? What about the pipe attached to the bridge? So let's see what we think a structure is out of those options. You can select more than one. You've got the multi-choices back on this poll. Wonderful. Give it another 5 seconds. Excellent. Thanks, Loretta. Let's share this poll. So wonderful. So no one thought the water under the bridge was as a structure, and that is correct. It hasn't been constructed. It's Palmerstone Passage, so it's a natural feature. The bridge has certainly been constructed. The dumped rock, even though you can refer to it as dumped rock, is actually being constructed, even though it looks, it's been placed, perhaps in a dumped fashion, or but it is certainly being constructed. It's been placed there with a purpose. So a rather basic form of construction, I guess, but it is a structure. And the pipe attached to the bridge, so part of a structure, anything attached to the structure, another structure would also be considered a structure. We had a interesting question the other day around a man-made canal, and if the water in a man-made canal would be considered part of that structure. And I think in that case it would be, because the structure, which is the whole canal in itself, has been I guess designed to carry water, just as a swimming pool would be, really. So it's important to I guess think about what's being constructed and think about that definition of a structure, because there's going to be many sort of variations of what a structure may be. If you do have any questions, don't be afraid to put them into the chat. If you're not sure about something, or something has sparked a thought, then don't just hesitate to answer or to ask a question in the chat. All right, let's go to the next one. So we'll put the next poll up there, and this is a picture of a road. Part of it's got sealed. We've got unsealed shoulders, some nice trees, a bit of a fence line. So what is a structure in this photo? And you've got the options of the sealed component of the road carriageway, the trees, the gravel shoulder, and there's a fence just outside that tree line. So those are your options. You can select more than one. Let's see, let's get a few more answers there. And remember, you can win prizes by asking good questions or making comments. So don't be shy. All right, let's end this poll and share the results, Loretta. There we go. So almost everyone thought the sealed part of the road was a structure. Certainly is. It's been constructed. The trees are an interesting one. In this case, assuming those trees are sort of pre-existing part of the natural environment, they wouldn't be considered part of the a structure or the road, if the road is the structure. The gravel shoulder, yeah, that's been constructed as part of the road, so that's considered a structure. And the fences, even though they're like quite a basic level of fence, post and wire type construction, they have been constructed. So yep, everyone's on board with that, and they are a structure. Wonderful. Next example coming up. So it's quite a natural setting here. So let's throw up that next poll, and let's answer the question, what is a structure in this photo? Got more trees again. These trees are along a creek line. They're, let's say they're natural, I guess, or pre-existing any other development or change to the environment in that area. The natural grassed area as well, the placed mulch and the resting poles are the options there. So well underway. Let's give it another 5 seconds. That's in Moreton Bay, correct? It is in Moreton Bay. If anyone can tell me what road that is near, they can get a prize. Let's in Old North. Yeah, you got it. Bennett, is it? Yeah. Okay. Let's give Bennett a prize there. Loretta, well done. Wonderful. Okay, well, we've shared the results there. So the trees and the natural grassed area, assuming it's a part of the natural environment, they wouldn't be considered a structure. They haven't been constructed. The placed mulch, yeah, that's been constructed. So we're on the ball there. Even though the placement of something can be considered construction, yes. And the resting poles certainly have got a simple looking structure, just like that fence, but certainly it's been constructed, so it is a structure. So well done to Bennett for nabbing the first prize. Okay, the next question here. So quite a different environment to that last photo. So let's have a look at that next poll. We've got the options of the sealed road, the signs, the signs with the single post, so the narrow sort of post signs that wouldn't be considered a hazard. The concrete traffic islands and the traffic signals are your options here. All right, I think we can end that poll there. I think everyone knows what's coming up here. So sharing the results, yeah, everyone can see that this is a very built environment. I think everything in this photo has been constructed, so everything would be considered a structure. Is trying to catch someone out, but I don't think I've done that in any of the groups that we've had there. So let's crack on to the next one. This is a couple more to go, this one and one more. So your options here, we've got a road, we've got a bit of a rough rock cutting and some sort of some natural trees and scrub there. So let's go and select what we think is a structure in this photo. Prize if anyone can tell me the road that this is, and I'll give you hints, in Moreton Bay, so that narrows it down a little bit.
Narrows it down to about 200,000 kilometres of road.
Can't give prizes away too easily. Campbell's Pocket, no, it's not Campbell's Pocket. Towards Sanford, yeah, it's getting warmer there. Andrew, the Wynn Road it's not Wynn Road. No, all right, I might not distract myself by looking at the answers, but we can come back to that. All right, let's share the poll, share the results there, Loretta. Sealed Road, yep, spot on. Rough rock cutting, yeah, most of you guys got that. Yeah, so even though it's a natural, I guess, a natural material, there's been a construction process to reach that outcome. So yes, it's been constructed. Trees and scrub, the trees and scrub, if it is natural, then no, it's not. It hasn't been constructed. Tom's got it. Cedar Creek Road. Well done, Tom. So another prize out there. So nice one. It's good knowledge of the road network in Moreton Bay, Tom.
I do believe he did a design job on Cedar Creek Road. What the example that we've got in the training for tomorrow.
I see. Okay, he's had advantage.
But he still deserves a prize.
Yes, yep. All right, this is the last one, asking everyone what is a structure. So looking at that photo there, what is a structure in the photo? You've got some buildings there in the background, got a sealed car park, got a little drain inlet, got a bit of leveled area as well. Answers rolling in.
We do have a question that's come in, which we might answer after this poll's done.
Mm-hmm. Let's go. Okay, I think we just got it, just about everyone on that poll. So let's end the poll and share the results. So looking like we've got almost 100% across the board there, and that's yep, everything in that photo, in that image is constructed. And make a point of pointing out that the levelled earthworks pad is also a structure. So any constructed earthworks, it might be some, I guess, preloading for road construction. It might just be levelling out an area to make it more usable. If it was a open reserve, something like that. It has been constructed. Again, it's quite a basic structure. It's just earthworks, but it is a structure. It has been constructed. So that's the takeaway there. I was hoping to get across with that last one. So let's have a look at that question from Josh. If a tree has a green infrastructure rope attached to it, does the tree then constitute a structure? interesting question. We get a few of these questions around trees, don't we, Marco? So, well, I guess if there's some form of attachment to the tree, I guess, from the rope. So I would consider that as having been constructed. So yeah, I would say it's part of the structure if you're relying on it to attach a rope to it or something like that. So, but yeah, it's a good question, and we've had a few like that around the trees, and particularly how they might be or may not be considered a structure. You have any thoughts on that one, Marco?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, but whether it's a structure or not, yeah, it could. People could see it either way, but it's definitely would be a workplace in that situation. So then it would still be under the safety and design.
That's right. Yep. Very good. Nice question. All right, we'll throw a prize out to Josh as well. Okay, get it. Got us all thinking. Workplace makes sense. Yeah, certainly does. Yep. Wonderful. Okay, well that rounds out structures. Now let's go on to the next term we want to sort of focus on is around a designer. So who is a designer? Is it just someone that uses AutoCAD and 12D, like these people in the picture there, getting into their design? Is it someone that can uses calculator, marks up plans, designs things that way, contributes to a design process? So yes, they are designers, but under the Work Health and Safety Act, a designer includes a PCBU whose business or undertaking involves preparing sketches, plans, or drawings for a structure, including variations to a structure. Also, anyone that makes decisions for incorporation into a design that may affect the health and safety of persons who construct, use, or carry out any of those other activities in relation to the structure. So that's it's important that to understand that the role of a designer and design activities is not just someone that is on the tools, someone making and preparing a calculation, but it can involve anyone that makes decisions around a design that can affect the health and safety of persons who, in relation to all those other activities. So carry out other activities in relation to the structure or in the vicinity of the structure. So that construction, maintenance, demolition, any of those activities we saw in the initial definition of safety and design. So I just want everyone in the chat now to write the name of roles that you think would be a designer under that definition in the Work Health and Safety Act. So I think most of you will see where the chat window is. That's it. I can see Chris. Yep. Landscape architect, definitely. Architect, engineer, environmental planner, yep. Traffic engineer, urban designer. I think, Marco, you said we've got parks planning today, urban design today.
Majority parks planning, yep.
Yeah, great. Yep.
Green infrastructure, a couple of engineers and designers.
Josh is putting councillor there. So
Yep, we've had that one a couple of times.
Yeah. So if a councillor makes decisions that can affect the health and safety of a structure, then yes, they are considered a designer under the Work Health and Safety Act. Industrial designer, your project manager, yep, Tony. That's right. If they're making decisions around the structure, around the project that they're managing, so certainly. So I've got a bit of a list here. I think some of those have been already mentioned in the chat. Got surveyors, got town planners, civil designers. I think we've had even temporary works designers or engineers. Fit under that definition of designer. Also, persons who specify how work is carried out. So that could be someone that writes a work method statement or a specification. So it doesn't always have to be around a plan. Also important to note that any contractors carrying out design work would also be a designer. So it doesn't so much matter in what you call yourself. If you just call yourself a contractor and think that's you're not a designer. If you're carrying out design work, then you are a designer under the Work Health and Safety Act. So just to affirm those key points, so any variations to a plan or changes to a structure. So if you're out in the field and you're in that sort of construction, implementation, delivery type phase, and you make changes to a plan without consulting that designer, then you take on that role of designer. As I mentioned, designer includes those who specify that how work is carried out, and contractors carrying out design work. Wonderful. Okay, the next point I want to talk about is the term reasonably practicable. So remember that safety in design requires a designer to ensure that so far as is reasonably practicable, that a structure is designed to be without risks to health and safety. So how do we decide what is reasonably practical? It requires consideration of the likelihood of exposure to a hazard, the degree of harm or consequence from that exposure to the hazard, the availability and suitability of ways to eliminate or minimise the risk. So that in turn requires some knowledge of the hazard to be able to identify suitable ways to eliminate it. We really got to understand the nature of the hazard that we're considering. And lastly, it also requires us to consider that the cost associated with eliminating or minimising the risk and whether that cost is grossly disproportionate to the risk. In the Module 2 tomorrow, we'll go into more detail on risk assessments, looking at likelihood and consequence. That's the degree of harm from exposure to a hazard. So we just want to introduce that term reasonably practical today. So we've got more polls on the way. So let's look at this one as a first one. So I'm going to describe a hazard associated with that photo. I'm going to describe a risk, and the poll will give us a number of ways that may or may not be reasonably practicable ways to eliminate or minimise the risk. So in this case here, I've got the photo, which is the photo describes there's a road with some overhead lighting. The hazard is working at heights, and the risk event is someone falling from height while changing a light fixture. So we're going to have a look at that poll now. Loretta, not going to make that mistake again. If you could launch the poll, there it is. So let's have a look at those options there. So let's, if you think that one of those options there is a reasonably practical way of eliminating or minimising the risk of a worker falling from height whilst they're up there changing a light fixture, then select it. You can select more than one, so there might be more than one reasonably practical way to minimise or eliminate that risk. Hopefully everyone gets the exercise there. If you're in any doubt, you can just ask a question in the chat. And with that, I guess, question of reasonably practical, is going to be some variation in answers. It's not always black or white. Everyone's going to have a different view about what is reasonably practical, often based on their knowledge of the hazard and ways to eliminate or minimise the hazard. So I think we're just about there on that one. So let's end the poll and share the results. There we go. So the first one, so no one thought that just getting rid of the road lighting and doing away with it would be reasonably practical, and I definitely agree with that, because remember, one of the considerations is about whether it's a suitable way to eliminate or minimise the risk. So it would eliminate the risk, but is it suitable? Well, it doesn't really, probably doesn't align with the objectives of the project that you're undertaking. If your project's a road project, then you want road lighting because you want the benefits of road lighting to be there to improve the safety of all road users. So certainly not going to be reasonably practical in terms of some of our other project objectives. The next two, we've given those majority support in being reasonably practical. So the use of hinged poles that can be maintained from ground level certainly can be in the mix. Might depend on a few other details, but we don't know all the circumstances of this particular design. I've just shown you a photo. So certainly in the mix there. Specifying a long life luminaire that costs a little more can also be reasonably practical. Definitely, that would minimise the risk, because assuming that it wouldn't need maintenance as often. Designing a drone to change the luminaire is the last option. I think we've had some variations in support for this idea, some a bit more, some a bit less, but would really depend on your understanding of drone technology. So maybe not now, but maybe in a few years' time that could be reasonably practical. So I saw a story about some sort of drone air transport thing the other day, but yeah, not really sure about that. So but who knows what's ahead of us. So well done to that one. Let's jump into the next example there. So in this case here, our exercise is looking at a hazard, which is working near water. So this is a cliff stabilisation project, or a photo from a project, and it's at Scarborough. It's one of the designs in your small group exercise tomorrow. So some of you might be in a group that is looking at this design. So the hazard is working near water. We're in a coastal area. We've got some tidal influence there, so it'll be sort of high tide, low tide type action. The risk is drowning, and I've got that as drowning when working on the cliff stabilisation. It could just be, you're sort of inundated by water, and I guess drowning is one outcome, one consequence, but it could be certain other consequences there. And let's launch the poll and just see what options there are there. So what could be some reasonably practical ways to minimise that risk of drowning when working on the project down there at sort of sea level or beach level? Okay, so the options are: work only during low tide periods, construct a temporary cofferdam in Moreton Bay for the limits of the project, use a lookout to warn of big waves, and undertake works from the cliff top.
Just going to jump in there, Paul. Josh has got a question there about that lighting one. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that now. Yeah, Energex do some of street lighting design work in council projects, and they are responsible for maintaining their lights. Is it their responsibility to identify safety and design matters, such as the example, or is it council as the principal? That's a good question, Josh. Let me come back to you. I might have a think about that one. So if I don't come back to you today, we'll definitely address it tomorrow. But that's it's a good one. Marco, do you have any thoughts on that one?
My go-to always is, if someone is doing the design, they're the primary, they're the person responsible for doing the safety and design, because there's to inform us of the risks. So I would see in that instance, we're engaging them to do a design, even though it's our project, they would have to do that portion of the safety and design. That's it would be the same if we had an external consultant doing a road design. They would do the safety and design.
Yeah,
that would be my take.
Yeah, there'll be certainly be an interaction there, I guess. They'll be thinking about some of those road elements will affect their safety and design considerations. So we sort of touch on tomorrow, sort of forming a safety and design consultation group where you've got that skills and experience that covers all design elements represented in a safety and design assessment. So we might come back to and think about that tomorrow when we're at that part of the module 2. Yeah, good one, Josh. I think you've already got a prize, so we'll slow down on the prizes and give others a chance there, Josh. But not out of the mix, but I'm sure there'll be other good questions come along. All right, so back to this one here. So we've shared the results, haven't we, Loretta? Yep, there we go. So let's have a look at the responses here. So work only during low tide periods. So that could be reasonably practical depending on how much work you could do in those low tide periods. That might be a question about how much work and level of tides and all that sort of detail, which haven't given you that information, but certainly can be a reasonably practical way to minimise or eliminate risk. Construct a temporary cofferdam in Moreton Bay for the limit of the project. So a lot of that consideration might come down to cost against the level of risk being considered, whether it's a suitable way or a reasonable way to do. I know there's going to be probably some environmental issues with that structure as well, and the construction of that temporary cofferdam. So that's certainly an interesting one, and we've had I think probably about 50-50 for each of the groups so far on that one. Use the lookout to warn of big waves as the next one, and we had a few responses to say yes, so that could be reasonably practical. I guess the question might be around suitability. Would that sort of system actually work in practice? So suitability might be a question mark there, but as I said, we don't have the information here, so we don't have all the context, but certainly could be an option. Undertake works from the top of the cliff. Yeah, that certainly is an option there, and you can see that the concrete pump there is positioned in the photo, positioned on the top of the cliff. So there's certainly an element of some works that could be undertaken from the top of the cliff. Yeah, maybe not all the work, but certainly some of it. So well done. Let's go to the next one. So in this case, you've got a photo. It is a median. It's heavily landscaped. This one is in South Bank in South Brisbane, next to the city. So they've recently endeavoured, really planted out that median there. With some of you that have been to South Bank, right, remember it as like a deco type sort of gravelly median. So they've gone in a complete opposite direction to that and really planted it out. So I think there is putting my road safety hat on, there's certainly a road safety issue there in terms of visibility, and there's some little gaps in that vegetation for people to cross, where the lady in blue is there now. So interesting one from a road safety perspective. But in this situation here, the hazard that I've identified is as working near live traffic, and the risk is a vehicle that is passing crashes into workers that are maintaining that landscape median. So let's look at the options in the next poll and see if we think they are reasonably practical ways to eliminate or minimise the risk. So Option 1, maintain the median when the road is closed with diversions in place. Place warning signs of workers on the road. Use a lookout to warn of errant vehicles. Use a median treatment that does not require maintenance by works on the ground. Okay, so we're almost there. Let's end this poll and share the results. Thanks, Loretta. Yep, so the first one, so maintain the median LD when the road is closed. So we've had most people say, yeah, that could be reasonably practical. And so that will really depend on your ability, I guess, to divert traffic and perhaps a need to maintain access in areas or to businesses. So that is really going to be dependent on the location that you're in. The next one, place signs warning of workers on the road. So certainly reasonably practical when we do that with our current traffic management practices. So that might come with a reduction of speed as well, which would be definitely positive. The next one, use a lookout to warn of errant vehicles. I guess that may not be suitable. We can certainly do that, but because of the instantaneous nature of a crash, it's probably unlikely to be suitable. And the next one is using a median treatment that does not require maintenance by works on the ground. So if they were going to go back to their old median, which is sort of deco gravelly type finish, it's certainly well, I don't think it required any maintenance. It looked pretty bare. So that would eliminate the risk. But I think you then, I guess, coming back to the other question around other objectives. So it certainly looks great as it is currently landscaped. So and there's amenity benefits that come with providing landscaping, providing trees and shade and that sort of thing. So that would require a balance of safety and design and other considerations. We'll talk about some of those other considerations in module 2 tomorrow as well. So excellent, well done to everyone there. So we'll just shortly take a break. So just to recap on what we've just gone through, and I'd just like to reinforce what safety and design is, and this is our key definition. So requires a designer. So we talked about all those roles that could be considered a designer, fall under that designer definition in the Work Health and Safety Act. So safety and design requires a designer to ensure, as far as reasonably practicable, and that requires consideration of a number of aspects, likelihood, consequence, availability, suitability, and cost. Figures in what is reasonably practical. So far as reasonably practical, that a structure is designed to be without risks to the health and safety of persons who, at a workplace, use the structure for a purpose for which it was designed, construct the structure, carry out any of those other reasonably foreseeable activities at a workplace, like maintenance, or someone that's in the vicinity of that workplace are exposed to actions around the structure. So it's important that we have a great understanding of those terms: designer, reasonably practical, structure, and workplace. After the break, we'll move on to talk about other important safety and design considerations. So we'll have a 5-minute break now. If you do have any questions, just a reminder to pop them into the chat and we can address them when we come back. So the time now on my clock is 3:04. So let's, at 3:09, we'll come back, have a drink, have a break, and see you back here at 3:09, everyone. Thank you. Back. Hope you could get a quick drink and have a little break. We'll get underway with the, excuse me, the second part of Module 1. So we're going to talk about some of the other considerations that are important to know around safety and design. So just want to introduce a couple of terms that you might have seen before, might be familiar with. So the first one is so far as is reasonably practicable. So some people shorten that to SFARIP. The other is as low as reasonably practical. So that's sometimes referred to as ALARP. So we'll throw a poll straight off the bat. We'll put a poll up there to get everyone thinking again. It's just a simple question. There it is. So are those two things the same? Sound pretty similar. So if you're not sure, that's fine. If you haven't heard of them before, that's fine. There's an option there to say you're not sure. If you have heard of them before, do you think they're the same, or have the same meaning, or do they mean something different? Let's give it another few seconds. I might have a couple of people still getting a drink. Okay, we might, I think there's still a few people away, but we'll wrap up the poll there and share the results. So I've had, no one said yes. So everyone thinks they're either different or they're not quite sure. So, and that's, yep, the answer. They're not different. On the surface, they sound pretty similar. And there's been instances in the past where they've sort of been used interchangeably by organisations. So the difference between the two is that the so far as is reasonably practicable approach to risk management is precaution based, and it can be summarised around, well, what can be done should be done. Whereas the as low as reasonably practicable approach typically sets a risk target, and then once that's achieved, then you've done your job, and there's a tendency to say that, well, nothing further needs to be done. So that the second approach, the ALARP approach, can be subjective in a couple of ways. One, through the setting of that risk target, and also the risk assessment process as well can be subjective. So it's important to note that the approach in the Work Health and Safety Act is the so far as is reasonably practicable approach, which means in practice, if there's something that's reasonably practical available to us to further reduce risk, then we should go ahead and do that. So that's a quite an important approach, and quite a important sort of philosophy to be mindful of. So what can be done should be done. Move on to the next consideration, and that's around knowledge and capability. So many of the projects that you see around these days are often, I've said there may be at first, but now I think there's an increasing tendency for projects to be quite complex, and it's often going to be the case that not just one person has a full understanding of the project. And I think in terms of our roles in the engineering world, the one that I'm familiar with, and that over the years there's been a greater move to specialisation in technical disciplines for a range of reasons. So I guess that combination of projects which are more complex, and then a tendency to have some specialised roles in at least engineering discipline, is going to make it really unlikely that one person is going to have a full and complete understanding of a design project. So in practice, that means that safety and design is not something that's going to be a one-person job. So it's going to involve a group, a small team of people, so that we can make sure that we've got a full, I guess, knowledge set and capability is represented when we undertake our safety and design assessment. So as an example, I took a couple of photos of the Brisbane Metro project that are happening. It's happening at the moment. This is at Miranda, where they're extending a bus or bus platform, I guess you could say, and there's a lot going on, as you can see in that photo. So there's the Southeast Freeway, there's a top level, you've got a Key Street, and you've got the busway. So it is complex. There's numerous sort of structures. There's temporary works. There's lighting involved. You've got the operating aspects of the busway. So it is certainly a complex environment. So as I said, design projects are often nowadays very complex, and to be too complex to be fully understood by one person. So we need to make sure that persons with specific skills and expertise are included in a design team or consulted with during the safety and design process to make sure there's not any gaps in knowledge in what we're doing. Now, myself, I've been involved in safety and design assessments that have included anywhere from between, say, 3 or 4 people up to around 25 people for very large scale projects, and that's necessary to get up to that number so that we can have all skills sort of represented when we undertake our safety and design assessment. So this is a very incomplete list, just a number of skill areas I could sort of think up on the fly that might be involved in some of the projects undertaken by the City of Moreton Bay. If you know of any skill areas that are not on this list that you would use at council, just pop them in the chat. And we'll just move on to an activity where we'll have a look at a few photos. And I just want, as a group, we can identify some of the skill areas that would need or would have been required or involved in the design of these structures. And in turn, those are the skill areas that would expect to be represented in a safety and design process. So the first image there is of a shared path. It goes under an existing bridge. There's some landscaping, as you can see. Next to the path is a creek. And that's subject to some tidal influence. So if everyone could in the chat identify some skill areas where that would be required or would have been required for the design of this path, that new path connection, and we'll have a bit of a discussion around those. So. There we go, Adam. Structural, Alex, hydraulic engineering. Yep, big tick to those two. Landscape architect. Yep, certifier, structural engineer. Lighting. Yep, there's lighting in that good spot there. Who is that? Shannon. Yep, lighting under that bridge. Environment, flood modelling, stormwater management. Yeah, I think you guys have nailed it on the head. SEPTED experts. Yeah, interesting one there. I think the SEPTED, and it's certainly an issue. Yeah, that would need to be considered. I'm just trying to think of how it might involve, relate to the I guess the structure when it's a workplace. So that certainly a consideration for use by path users. And there'll be a number of those that we see, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in module 2. We'll have those varying design objectives, and we'll have more than one design objective, and safety design is often going to be balanced sometimes around those other design objectives. So I think we've hit the nail on the head. I think we've well covered in terms of what would be involved for the design of that structure there. Let's go to the next one. I won't give another prize away for this. It is Old North Road again. It's not far away from those koala resting poles that we saw earlier. So in the chat, let's identify some of those skill areas, those knowledge areas that would have been required for design of this part of Old North Road. Traffic AT, there's a transition ramp there. Yep. Energex Powerlink, yep, spot on. Ryan, electrical, civil designer. Yeah, those active transport, green infrastructure. There's a culvert there. You can't really see it from the photo, but maybe the location. So there's that fauna fencing above the culvert. So I guess access to maintain that fencing. Not that it requires a lot of maintenance, I don't think, but access to maintain that fencing is important. So be seeking the input of someone with some green infrastructure experience, landscape architect, urban planner, structural engineer, landscape architects, urban designers for planning input. Yep, that's spot on. Yep. Wonderful. Okay, let's go to the next example here to get our thinking caps on. For this one, a bit of a unique situation. So Bribie Island Bridge that you saw in an earlier photo, and this is on the island sides. It's another shared path, and this shared path is been, I guess, retrofitted under the bridge, which has been there for a long time. So it sneaks under the bridge to provide a continuous path along the island side of the bridge. So who would we need to involve in this case to make sure that we've got the complete knowledge and capability around this structure? So we've got SEPTED, yep, another SEPTED consideration, hydraulic, structural, coastal, structural, AT, structural engineer, DDA, DDA compliance, yep, AT, flooding, yep. So yeah, hydraulics, we've got hydraulics and coastal there. So how's the interaction with the I guess the coastal environment? Any sort of groundwater considerations? How do you drain this area? So someone had mentioned hydraulics. Is this where we had the role I'd never heard of before, Marco? The
geohydrologist.
Geohydrologist. Is this where this was raised the other
or
day?
hydrogeologist, sorry. I got that back to front.
Hydrogeologist. Yeah, we had that the other day. I didn't even know such a role existed, or but I learnt something the other day. So Ryan, Sarah, DTMR. Yeah, it's a good one. I guess DTMR, I guess, it's a state-controlled road, Bribie Island Road. So yeah, so maintenance of that existing structure is important. So how does that happen? How's that carried out with that active travel path going under the bridge then? So wonderful. Maybe a prize for Ryan there for that answer there. So that's involving some of the knowledge and capability around the bridge design and the bridge maintenance. So well done. Okay, that sort of rolls us sort of nicely into the next consideration. So hand in hand with the capabilities of designers, those skill and knowledge areas that we're talking about, it's also necessary to draw on the knowledge and experience of others, and that can include manufacturers, suppliers, importantly workers. That could be workers that construct a structure, workers that maintain a structure. Remember any of those other activities that will occur once the structure is constructed need to be considered. So by involving those workers that will actually do the work, we add to that, I guess, pool of knowledge that we have when undertaking a safety and design assessment. It's really important that it's more than that. Actually, it's a legal requirement that workers are consulted as part of safety and design process. So a couple of those dot points. So manufacturers and suppliers can be a consultation with manufacturers and suppliers can be required, particularly if you're considering a new product. The photo there, we've got a proprietary fencing system. I've got a product description sheet for a crash cushion, a stormwater quality device there as well. So if we're considering a new product, might be a proprietary product that is only available from a select number of suppliers, and perhaps you don't know, as a designer, perhaps you don't know a lot about the product aside from a technical sheet that you can find online. You think it might be a good idea, so you're thinking of using it as part of your design. If that were the case and you didn't have the knowledge of that product, then you really need to involve those manufacturers and suppliers in your safety and design process. Consult with them so that we don't have any knowledge gaps when we're doing our safety and design assessment. So really important that we think about workers and also those manufacturers and suppliers of the elements of our design. So we'll run another poll here. So the question here is, when safety and design, when must safety and design be considered? So we've got the three phases of council's sort of design life cycle. We've got the planning, concept design, and detailed design. So Loretta's started that next poll, which asks us at what time in the planning or design of a project should the consideration of safety and design commence. So as early as possible is an option, after a request from a contractor. So once they've started construction, you need to get them that safety and design report. Once they've only after they've requested it. That's one option. When you've got through 75% of your detailed design, another option, you really know about the design by the time you hit that stage, or after the design is certified. Sorry, I've jumped around in the order there a little bit. So I think there is a clear answer there, and I can see it appearing there. So we can end the poll there. I don't think I was able to fill anyone there, but of course it's as early as possible in the design process. And the reason, of course, we do that is that the early stages of a design provide the greatest ability for us to influence the design outcome. Also, importantly, influence the health and safety attributes of a design. So when a design, I guess, reaches a more detailed level of maturity, then it's very hard, to make changes without impacts to cost and time. So whilst we say as early as possible, there's an acknowledgement there as well that in the planning phase of a project, particularly if you're in the very early stages of, say, strategic planning, you won't have a lot of design definition or design maturity, but that shouldn't stop you from starting to consider safety and design. So we'll talk a bit more about that in module 2 when we're talking about how we apply our safety and design process. But it's really important we start thinking about it early, even if we don't have a lot of design development under our belt. So there we go, what I just said there. and to go along with that, safety and design requires consideration in all stages of a design process. Yep. So what about other design considerations? So it did, as we sort of went through our slides, it sort of flagged that there would be some other considerations that would need to be balanced with safety and design. So that could be some policies, plans, standards, guidelines. So that you'll have, you know, this range of other sort of design considerations that may be design objectives that you're working towards, and it's always important to be mindful of those, and also mindful that the strict application of a standard or a guideline will often address safety and to a level, but the strict application of that standard or guideline may not address or control workplace risks, particularly when we're thinking about construction or maintenance. So our standards and guidelines are often focused with in terms of a final use, but may not adequately address workplace risks through the construction process or the maintenance phase of a project, particularly the case with unusual or complex structures. So there will be a need to consider safety and design, not in isolation, but alongside some of these other design considerations. Risk management. Well, applying a risk management approach is how we achieve the aims of safety and design. Remember, safety and design aims to eliminate the risks to health and safety of persons in a workplace. When we can't eliminate the risk, then if it's not reasonably practical to do that, we're minimising risks. The risk management process gives us a structure that allows us to respond to identified risks and facilitate continuous improvement of our designs. In module 2, we get into the risk assessment process in more detail, but the risk assessment, the risk management approach for safety and design is typically that same risk assessment process that we might use for our whole of project risks. Though whilst we adopt the same risk management process, it's really important that we, I guess, keep safety and design distinct from whole of project risks, because there'll be often those different objectives at play. Some common questions that I've heard along my career as well: can we combine our project risk assessment with our safety and design risk assessment? Can we have a combined safety and design and risk workshop? And I really think it's important that we keep safety and design separate, because it's quite a distinct consideration of workplace risk. And if we start involving some of the other risks, that might be reputational risk, it could be risk to environment, it could be risks around end users, not in a workplace setting. If we start mixing it all together, it can become somewhat confusing. So it's really important, I think, to undertake a separate safety and design risk assessment. So some hazards and their associated risks are pretty well known. So we understand that, particularly in construction, there will be risks, and when we're aware of a risk and its effective control is known, then we can implement those controls without undertaking additional risk assessment. So the benefits of this is that it allows us to focus our safety and design assessment on, I guess, the more unusual or atypical aspects of a project that might involve a new process, a new material, or a new product. We can focus on those without sort of reinventing the wheel in terms of some of those risks and that are well known, and we have effective controls for those risks. What I'm talking about there could be, for example, operating an excavator. So we know that there's risks associated with that, and there's a work method statement that council has that addresses that. Could be working with a product, a concrete mix or something of that nature. Yes, there are risks associated with handling a product, but we have processes that have effectively minimized that risk. Similarly, working at heights, we had an example of that before. We have some processes there. Doesn't mean that we don't consider it. Doesn't mean we don't look to eliminate those risks as required by the safety and design process. Just means that we're aware that we have an established way to minimise the risk if it can't be eliminated. Almost at the end of the module, one last thing, and then we're going to look ahead into our small group exercise for tomorrow. So the last other consideration I'd like to touch on is a question around design certification and the involvement of RPEQs, the Registered Professional Engineers of Queensland, the involvement of RPEQs in the safety and design process. So for safety and design, the approach is that if it's an engineering service, so that means that there'll be an RPEQ involved. That's a requirement of the Professional Engineers Act in Queensland. If there's an RPEQ involved in your project, then the safety and design assessment must be completed under the supervision of that RPEQ. I'd find it surprising if there was an RPEQ involved in a project who didn't want to be involved in the safety and design assessment because of its importance. So on the other hand, if it's not an engineering service that's been carried out and it doesn't require RPEQ certification, then there's no requirement to have an RPEQ involved in the safety and design process. So I think there was some examples mentioned in the chat the other day, Marco, of projects that didn't or not projects that didn't require certification. I can't quite recall what they are. That might have been.
Yeah, I think there's basically. Well, I guess we've got the parks team here, so if they were doing a playground upgrade. I don't think that needs an RPEQ because all the structures are pre-made and pre-designed, and then they'll be doing the layout work and stuff like that.
Yep. Might have been revegetation or
revegetation.
So those sort of projects, it's not an engineering service. So then there's no requirement for an RPEQ and no requirement for an RPEQ in the safety and design process. Okay, so let's, we're just going to have a look ahead to the small group exercise. Actually, I've got my slides sort of a little bit out of place there. So just to, before we do that look ahead to module 2, I just want to recap on module 1. So before the break, we looked at, we defined what safety and design was, and we looked at those key terms of workplace, structure, designer, and reasonably practical. And then after the break, we talked about those other considerations. So looking at those 2 risk approaches and remembering that so far as is reasonably practical approach is the one that is applied in safety and design. We talked about knowledge and capability, so making sure that we've got all those key skills, or enough knowledge and skills present at that safety and design process assessment, so that we have a full understanding of the the structure that we are designing. Talked about consultation, cooperation and coordination. So that's really involving workers, manufacturers, suppliers in the safety and design process. That's a legal requirement to involve workers in that process. Other design considerations that other design objectives that come into play when we're thinking about safety and design. Talked about the design life cycle, the need to start thinking about safety and design as early as possible in our design life cycle. Talked about risk management and how we can treat risks that are known and have known mitigations. And lastly, just then we talked about designer certification and the role of RPQs in the safety and design process. Any questions, any final questions, make sure you pop them in the chat. We're just going to move into that, look ahead into module 2. Where we're going to, after we go through the process tomorrow, the safety and design process, we're going to have break into groups and undertake a small group exercise. So that will involve, looking at projects, identifying the design context, risk context, identifying who you'd want to be there as part of your safety and design consultation group. So what are those skills that you'll need? Who are the people that you'll need to consult with, that you'll need to bring together into what we've termed a safety and design consultation group? And then you'll undertake a safety and design risk assessment, identifying anywhere between, say, 2 and 4 risks and some mitigations as part of a group. And then we're going to come back and present 2 risk items to the wider group. So we'll probably have a few more people tomorrow, is what Marco mentioned. A few extra people will join us that missed the second module from the last group. So we might have somewhere in the order of 5 or 6 groups. There might be 4 or 5 people in each group. Let's have a quick look ahead at some of those projects that you'll be having a look at. You'll get a package of design drawings, so you can have a bit of a look and get a better understanding of the projects before you undertake that risk assessment process. But I thought it'd be worthwhile just to get everyone having a bit of a look at these designs so that we're not completely unfamiliar with them tomorrow. So the first project is a cliff stabilization at Scarborough. We saw that photo earlier from the bottom of those cliffs where that work has actually been undertaken. So the project involves three parts: some removal of unstable, removal of the crest at the top of the cliff where it's unstable. Similarly as well, some unstable midsections will be removed, and there'll be some concrete protection applied at the base of the cliff. The next project is, I think someone worked on this. Was it Tom? That's Cedar Creek Road upgrade. So
yes, it was Tom.
If Tom gets this project, he'll probably have some of the answers. So it'll be his lucky day. But Tom would know this project better than I would. But I'll do my best and to describe it from what I can see of the design. So it's widening Cedar Creek Road, and this is about the cross section that you can see here is about where this street view image sits. So there's some widening to both sides of that existing carriageway. There is a bit of a bank that falls away down here, and you can sort of see it, the start of that in the photo. Bit of a cutting back up here that's existing where these trees are sitting as well. So fairly straightforward road widening project. It is a one-way in, one-way out catchment, I'm told, so that might come into some of those considerations around what's reasonably practical when you're managing live traffic. Number 3 is a bioretention decommissioning at Bray Park. This is an interesting one. So there's an existing little basin there that's sort of a long rectangular shape, and there's sandstone blocks that sort of form the basin. So it's quite deep. That new pipe that's going to be installed to replace the existing sort of basin is 1050, so just over a metre in diameter. So the existing basin could be about two metres deep. There is a bus bay up here, obviously some houses and some paths as well. So I guess the exposure from the workplace activities to others will be a consideration, and as part of that safety and design assessment. Next one, this is a LATM and stormwater renewal project at Woody Point. There's a hotel here on that side and some high-rise apartments there on the other side. So the project involves some median planting, so it's the LATM aspect. Some pipes, stormwater pipes will be installed in the road carriageway. There are services here, so likely that would be a consideration of traffic and also the interaction with any existing services. Just a couple more to get through here. So we've got fauna infrastructure at Eaton's Hill. So this is a post and rail fauna crossing in a culvert. That's what we can see at the top through here. So it's probably through this embankment there somewhere. And we've also got another post and rail fence under this bridge. So there's a bridge structure there you can sort of see in this area. Also under the bridge is a fauna rope bridge. So that's that red sort of dashed line under there. So there is certainly a few different green infrastructure elements going on here. We're probably well placed with the skills that we've got in this one to identify some of those safety and design considerations for this project. And this is the last one. I think we'll only get up to 6 groups if we get up to 6. So this is a playground construction at Griffin. There is, you can see that that's the outline. There's details around bins and fountains, shelters. There's an indicative footpath alignment here, which I think sort of connects down to that area of houses. You've got the Pine River just over here as well. So that is that playground construction project. I think we're just about at the end of module 1, just giving you a little look ahead to tomorrow, module 2 at the same time. Loretta, are you going to give people a bit of a look ahead to the learning management system?
Yeah, I sure will, just so that everyone sort of is ready for tomorrow. So I'll just share my screen if you can tell me if you can see that now.
I can see it. Yep.
Excellent, thank you. So I guess I know a couple of people have had some issues logging in. So hopefully you found your email from Learn at Safe Systems. Check your junk mail because sometimes it does go into that spam or junk folder. If you can't find it, let me know and I'll send you the details. But basically, this is once you do log in, this is the dashboard that you'll see initially. And so from here, we're basically just working down the list. So it's pretty straightforward. You've got your welcome section where you've got some introductions if you wanted to sort of chit chat with everyone, if you don't know them already. Some resources. So in here, some really good resources that perhaps, maybe Paul has referred to throughout the sessions. So have a look at the information here for you. So it's there on hand and you can download it and save it to your computers. So for today, module 1, there is a quiz that you need to do. So This is a copy of the presentation that Paul has gone through today. So that's in a PDF format. So you can click on that and again, save that if you like. And then there's the quiz. So just to click on here, and you need to click on attempt quiz now. So I'll click on continue my attempt and filling out the questions. First question is an admin based, and the remaining questions you need to answer are of course content based. So ensure you do that quiz and click on finish and finish that off. So that's basically, what you need to do for today's module. To prepare yourself for tomorrow, you can look into module 2. So Paul mentioned that you'll do group exercises. So if you click in here, if you wanted to read through and just sort of get ready and familiar with all of the locations, you can, but we will be assigning you randomly. So you will be assigned tomorrow's session will be a meeting, not a webinar, which means you'll be able to have your camera on and talk if you want. You don't have to, but you will see that the functionality is slightly different when you log in tomorrow. Same link and everything. But yeah, we will assign you into different breakout rooms, and those breakout rooms will mean what group you're in. So if you wanted to read through, have a read through just to get familiar. Hopefully Tom doesn't get that Cedar Creek Road group, but we'll see how the system, assigns. We'll see. So that's basically module 1 and 2, and then we move into feedback, which will be at the end of tomorrow's session as well. So we can run through that tomorrow. But that's all you need to do for today, is ensure you're filling out the quiz. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow, of course, same time, same place, or same link. That's it. Did you want me to cover anything else, Paul or Marco?
I think we're looking pretty good. If you've got 10 minutes till 4 o'clock, so that will give you a perfect amount of time to attempt that first quiz if you want to get it out of the way as the content's still in your mind. So yep. And we do need one brave person from each of those small groups to present to everyone tomorrow, but I'm sure since you're all friends, that shouldn't be a problem at all. So just a heads up on that one. And if no one puts their hand up, then Marco's got the job of picking a lucky person.
It's a good job.
Yeah.
Haven't had to do it yet, so it's been good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
Well, we'll run through that again tomorrow anyway, so it's fresh before we get started. But that's all for today. Thanks everyone for joining. And yeah, thanks Paul, thanks Marco. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Great. See you all tomorrow.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks
See ya.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.